This is Talk Radio.
Keeping you up to date across the UK. Online, on DAB+, and on the Talk Radio app.
Patrick Christys on Talk Radio.
Yes, evening all. It's Patrick Christys here on Talk Radio. Thank you very much for everyone who's been tuning in. But you aren't just tuning in, you're also watching us as well, and we love it. So fastest growing radio station on the planet, that's us, is now on your TV. Make sure that you download the Talk Radio TV app or go to talkradio.tv for details on how to watch. Do yourselves a favour, people. Get yourselves on there. Right, now, busy hour. As always, it's non-stop. I'm talking about the fact that the pingdemic is causing a supermarket crisis. Issues in the supply chain mean that because we're all getting pinged now, basically food can't get to shops. It's an absolute disgrace. We're already ruining our NHS. We're already ruining our education system. We're already ruining my flipping social life. And now, all of a sudden, I can't go and get some salad at Sano's. I mean, I've had enough. Anyway, we're also going to you, the callers, because we've got a big topic about illegal immigration into the UK. As Priti Patel has shoved 55 million quid Emmanuel Macron's way and said, please stop those migrants coming across the channel. To which you would imagine Emmanuel Macron laughs a bit and then goes, no. Anyway, 91.7% of you think that once the migrants arrive in the UK, they are not our responsibility. We're going to be hearing from you, 03444991000. We've got our political panel with Emily Carver, Conservative commentator, and Miata Fambula as well, Chief Executive of the New Economics Forum. Loads to get stuck into there. And indeed, our national debt has now reached 2.2 trillion. So it's all good news, isn't it, people? Patrick Christys, Talk Radio. Let's do this, okay?
Patrick Christys on Talk Radio.
Yes, here we go. So, we're going to be talking now to Joe Silke, I understand, who is Communications Officer at Bright Blue, which is a Conservative think tank. Because, the pingdemic, not only is it meaning that 1 million kids are off school and annoying the living heck out of their parents and crucially getting thicker, we're also overwhelming our NHS with backlogs of cases. Everyone's off. I mean, Keir Starmer's had to isolate for the fourth time. You love to see it. Had to isolate for the fourth time. It's such a Keir Starmer thing, this. Oh no, Keir's been pinged again, hasn't he? I do wonder if Boris Johnson's just got something. He goes back after PMQs. He goes, I'm not really happy with that Keir, guys. Ping him. And he gets all of a sudden Keir's in isolation. So there we are. But actually now what it's also doing apparently is getting in amongst our supply chain and meaning that some shelves in some shops are empty. Joe Silke joins me now, Communications Officer at Bright Blue. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Have you been pinged?
Not isolated, by the way.
No.
I'm still free.
You've not been pinged? You've never been pinged?
No, well, I mean, I had COVID at the end of June, so I've got it out of my system now, and hopefully I'll be all right, but who knows?
Oh, gosh, fingers crossed. Well, as long as you're okay now, that's the main thing. You're certainly looking fine fettle, so fingers crossed that lasts. Okay, well, firstly, just inform our listeners realistically what's actually going on at the moment. So the supply chain issues because so many of those workers are getting pinged, is that right? And now we're hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. So people all over the supply chain, whether it's drivers or other people who work in supermarkets or anyone in those supply chains, we're all getting pinged. I mean, it's an absolutely sort of farcical situation. I'm sorry, but an apology isn't good enough. We're on day 3 of alleged Freedom Day, and we have the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, the Health Secretary, now the Leader of the Opposition, all isolating. You couldn't have written this better. And really kind of have 2 questions. Like, one, clearly the government knew this was going to happen. They knew there would be an exit wave. So why wasn't there a plan for this? And then B, why are we squandering like all of our vaccination success? We've vaccinated more people than pretty much any other country. Why don't we have a better system where people who've been double jabbed, like those 4 people, like so many others, can not have to isolate?
Yeah, I've just recorded actually Plank of the Week with Mike Graham earlier on, so that'll be out, I imagine, this evening actually. And he made a good point on there actually, which is that, if Boris Johnson keeps going on about our vaccination success story, well, it's not a success story if it doesn't mean that we've got any freedoms back, really. It's not a great success, is it? So I think that's quite interesting because Boris Johnson, every single time he opens his mouth, he's banging on about the fact that we've got such a fantastic vaccine rollout. What a triumph it is. Well, yeah, all right, but even despite that, now you're still telling me that in 4 to 6 weeks' time we might be back in a lockdown. I'm going to have show a COVID passport. So it's not working, is it?
Absolutely. Surely that's the whole point of vaccinations, that we can get out of the vicious cycle of people having to isolate. I mean, we have about ONS figures only today said that 90% of adults in England have antibodies. So why aren't we making use of that? Also, to be fair, there is a second point. We had actually quite very early vaccine success in which we're roaring ahead of our neighbours. And now actually recently, when it comes to younger people, it's really massively slowed down. So why aren't we vaccinating them properly? Why aren't people coming forward for their jabs? Is government messaging all wrong? We need to sort this out.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, like, historically, I think, teenagers and people in their early 20s don't tend to like being told what to do, right? And so if you end up with a government that's, like, really looming over you, kind of choking you with the asphyxiating hand of the state and saying, do this or else, do this or else. Well, that's a little bit like when your mum and dad tell you to clean your room and you don't clean your room, right? So, I think this is maybe the messaging is all wrong there. Also, I do think that there are a huge amount of young people in this country who just don't feel like they need the vaccine and they don't want to be forced to have it. And I have serious reservations about living in a country that does force them to have it. I don't think that's the nation that I recognise or indeed would want to live. But, Joe, just in terms of the supermarket crisis that we've got at the moment, it's fair to say that this is not everywhere in the country, but it's enough places for it to be a concern. And now, especially in this searing heat, you're going to end up with people like some older people as well, that want to just nip out to the shops quickly. There's nothing in there for them. Before you know it, they've had to walk 2 miles just to get milk. We can't be living in this country like this, can we?
Absolutely not. I mean, we had a whole, Operation Yellowhammer, where we prepared for food shortages because of the Brexit agreement. Has any of that been used? I mean, we need to just be releasing people from isolation. So many of these workers who are involved in these supply chains will have been double jabbed. Why aren't they being released? We need food on the shelves. Otherwise, it's going to be a massive catastrophe. We're going to be a laughingstock. How can you be the country that's so far ahead on vaccinations and yet we can't even put food on the shelves?
It's really strange. Why do you think they're doing this, right? If you had to hand on heart tell me now and tell our Toy listeners why you really think this is happening. We've got arguably the best vaccination rollout in the world, certainly one of, right? Absolute triumph, supposedly. But we're still now in a situation where we're crippling our education system, we're crippling our NHS, we're crippling people's mental health and social lives, and we're now literally ruining our own food supply. What is happening?
I have absolutely not. I mean, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak clearly both thought that it was an absolute ludicrous system, which is why they tried to get out of it. Now, rightly, they've been made to stick to their own system that they're making the rest of the country stick to. I don't know whether this is sort of public health caution, the influence of Chris Whitty and Patrick Vallance and others within the public health establishment that's making them do this, but we really need to have a change of policy.
Well, do you need to have a change of policy? I wonder if you need to change of personnel as well. What do you think?
Well, I mean, listening to Dominic Cummings, you potentially question the suitability of this Prime Minister to lead us.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, just while we're on that, we're going to be doing a bit of this on the political panel, by the way. So, no need to dwell too long on this, Joe. What do you make of that Cummings stuff? I imagine a lot of our listeners will have seen at least clips of it, where basically he said, the Prime Minister wasn't particularly fit to lead, and they tried to oust him not long after, days after getting him elected, which was a bit weird. Can we actually trust anything that would come out of Cummings' mouth at all?
I mean, some of what he said seems to ring true in the sense of it. He really sort of articulated some of the things which ultimately we do know about Boris Johnson's character. And we do know that our own political system is flawed in lots of ways and that Whitehall, etc., needs a lot of reform. I mean, he's clearly potentially in it for revenge and wants to maintain his own relevance. So I don't really know where the line is there. But I mean, it's a pretty good expose on how our political system really works, which I guess if you work in politics, maybe you're not that surprised. But I think a lot of people in the general public might be surprised at the way our political system actually works in reality.
Yeah, I did find it quite interesting where there are numerous areas where Dominic Cummings gets himself tied up in knots, for me anyway, which is that, like, if you believed so strongly in the fact that this guy has quite a large oaf, why did you devote so much time to getting him elected with such a stonky majority? He goes, well, it was the best way of getting Brexit done. And you just think, is he trying to overplay his hand a bit here? Me and this cabal of vote leave people had all this power and we were kind of like the kingmakers of it all. I just wonder how true that is, or whether or not it's a bit something that's quite relatively easy to say after the event. I mean, whatever way you dress it up, Dominic Cummings now presumably will never be able to work anywhere again.
No, probably not.
I just think that seems to be one of the big takeaways for me. Look, just in your view now, Joe, just returning quickly to the supermarket crisis as a result of this pingdemic, how long do you think it's going to be now before the people just say, enough is enough, we're all deleting the app?
I mean, anecdotally, that's happening already. I mean, I know so many people who are I'm in my 20s. I know so many people who are of my age who want to go out. They want to go to clubs, they want to go to bars, they want to go to pubs, they want to go to festivals, etc. And they are just deleting the app. And so whether they've had COVID like me recently, in which case I feel relatively comfortable in the sense of I probably won't get COVID again anytime soon, but other people who haven't even had the virus, who potentially could get the virus and could then actually infect people, the kind of people we actually do need to isolate, still think it's ridiculous. They're deleting the app because we have this broken system. Did
you feel pretty rough when you had the old Rona or not?
It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, I was quite lucky. I'm okay now.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And thank you very much for making the time for us as well. It's been brilliant to have you on board. Joe Silke there, Communications Officer at Bright Blue, which is a Conservative think tank, talking about the fact that really the government's pingdemic is continuing. The government's pingdemic is rolling on. And now